Best greetings to all drivers from the Audi GTO 90 Championship. Good success.
Though the GTO Championship looks to be anyone's game, the GTP Championship has very clearly turned into a two-horse race. But with Interlagos capping off the first half of the season, there's still plenty ahead that could change the shape of things. This famous Brazilian circuit can prove tricky with multi-class racing, so nothing is guaranteed. We'll see how it all shakes out as we get ready to watch round 6 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlacher. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Though this track had not yet changed shape to its modern layout in 1989, when these cars raced, it still feels like a good fit for this old IMSA machinery. In fact, let's take a closer glance at some of the features of Interlagos. Welcome to Autódromo's José Carlos Pache. Most fans and drivers simply know this place as Interlagos. Starting life as an absolute behemoth of a circuit, this Brazilian track was eventually truncated to the version you see today. Having hosted Formula One for roughly 3 decades, it's become very well known on the international stage. But it has also held rounds in the World Endurance Championship, as well as frequently seen Brazilian stock cars, motorcycles, and even truck racing. There's little difference between its two layouts, which includes the GP course and the Moto course, which simply adds a chicane to the end of the lap. In both cases, it's a tale of two circuits. The run past the start-finish line and into the Senna S, followed by the blast towards the Descida do Lago, are very high-speed sections that come back-to-back. Drivers will need to focus on top end in order to attack or defend. Expect most passes to happen in those two corners. But from Ferradura until Juchão, the track suddenly twists itself into a mess of hairpins and frustratingly technical turns. This can make car setup a real compromise, and for the latter part of the lap, an absolute pain when dealing with traffic. Pit exit is also a narrow affair, so it requires drivers to take care when trying to maximize their outlaps. On the upside, with this being a modern F1 track, there's paved runoff in abundance at many of the fast corners. The passion of the Brazilian fans always comes out in force at races, and it's no wonder with this picturesque track sandwiched right amongst the neighborhoods of Sao Paulo. You see just a little bit of an overview about this track, but for more details on how it'll look today, why don't we go to Steph for a rundown of this specific layout?
Well, Joe, as it is standard with GSRC here, this track guide always provides the best overlook. But to get a little bit more car specific, the GTP, the Nissan ZX Turbo GTP, and the Audi 90 Quattro GTO, that's going to be a very interesting combination with this track because, yes, the first sector all the way up to turn 4 is quite wide, rather wide, especially for a Formula 1 track, but it then really tightens up. Then there's not a lot of passing opportunities around these 15 turns or 4.3 kilometers in length. So class interaction will be very interesting, and it's going to be really important to know where you can pass, when you can pass, and especially how is your car and your setup going to react to especially the very tight infield here at the circuit Interlagos.
We'll see how those two classes interact with one another soon enough, but right now qualifying is going on. Before that finishes, we're going to go through the championship order for you, starting with the GTPs that we were mentioning before. And you can see Albrecht and Gerber very, very tight together. Now, Martin Krejcik is in third, but nearly 60 points back. It's going to be quite a haul for him Nick Mukanos, of course, and Rob Olenek in a tight fight as well with him to settle out that third place. We also have the GTO Championship. I was glancing at that, Steph, and man, it looks like it is tight up at the top.
It sure is true. It's tight as ever, as I would say. Reed Miller is still leading ahead of Franco Scurry. There's only 5 points between them. Then there's Joni Hagner, who gained a position last time around. Also, Philip Lake back there in 4th place. He himself gained 2 positions. 13 points between him and the leader. And then there's also Remio Di Basca in 5th place. He lost 2 points last time around. 15 points, though, only behind your leader, who is still Reed Miller.
Top 5 clearly not separated by much, but we also have a special championship in the GTOs. That is the Milk Zoo GTO Championship, which a big thanks to Walter Rull for coming in and giving us that little good luck to all the competitors. This is just for Italian drivers in the GTOs, and right now Franco Scurry is up ahead of Remigio De Pasqua. Now, there's a number that are still relatively close that didn't show up in our overall top 5 in the GTOs. That's Felipe Arcidiacono and Albertinelli. Like I said, half the season left to go after today, so that could all switch around even just today after the race is over. Keep an eye on that and keep an eye on those drivers and where they finish in relation to one another. What about today's race details, Steph? What's in store for us?
Well, it's as always, Joe, 40 minutes here at Interlagos. Obviously, no pit stops needed because these cars can hold quite a lot of fuel in their tanks. Open setups, as always, you can tinker away as much as you want. And I'm pretty sure that this here today will be one of the better rounds because it is Interlagos after all.
And as we take a glance as well at the qualifying, which a number of the GTPs seem to have finished with them running pretty quick laps. I've got Alexia Loma up at the top of those. It is going to be a good fight in the GTOs here, though, Steph. I'm looking at the names that have shown up. Rolla and Hagner are both here. Those two Finns tend to be very, very fast. And then last week's winner, Phil Lake, he finally got a bit of luck on his side. He's looking like he's pretty fast here in the qualifying as well.
Yeah, Willow Roller 4/10 ahead of Joni Hagner, who is himself 4/10 ahead of Philip Lake. So the first 3 guys in the GTOs separate already by 8 full tenths. Not something we see very often in this series, Kamel GT. But yeah, it tightens up very much in the midfield then again, which also, by the way, is the case for the general top 10 in the GTO standings. They're only separated in total by 32 points.
You've driven in this series at least a significant amount of times, and as we watch Phil Lake come up the front stretch to finish his second lap, he improves a little bit, but not enough to push him out of P3. I'm curious to know if those Audis will start to form trains, or if the middle part of the circuit that you mentioned with all the twisty little bits, is that going to be enough to separate people?
It depends on the first few, I would say top 5 with the times we have right now. Yes, they are going to be separated after the first 10 minutes, probably, unless somebody makes some big mistakes and keeps the back together. But the midfield, they are going to stay tight. It is just the nature of this track and this car. Unless you really know how to power out of these corners with the 4-drive wheels and with the 4-driven wheels, and how to use the understeer to your advantage through the slow turns, then you're gonna stay tight together because you don't also have the good setups, because you know how to trim that setup to the car and to the track. So yes, the midfield's gonna stay very tightly packed, probably will be the same for the GTP. So I would say the very first lappings we're gonna see are gonna be quite hectic.
Looking to see if anybody can still finish a lap here, as we've got 40 seconds left. Looks like even our GTOs are pretty much done. I know Pablo Rangel just came out, but he has come out too late to be able to complete a timed lap. So our order has been set for today, and let's go through that starting order to give you an idea of how things will kick off. Starting with our GTP class, we've got Alexei Aloma up on the pole with Fabian Gerber next to him. Interesting that Gerber has finally managed to outrun Albrecht, at least on a single lap, but over race pace, Albrecht has been quicker this season. Olenek is back again to try and challenge them. He'll start from P4 with Fabian's brother Tobias Gerber starting in 5th. On the outside of row 3, it'll be Nick Mukanos. Martin Krejcik with 7th on the grid will be followed by Heitor Sintes Guindo. Then it's Fabian Jungbluth starting in 9th with Pablo Suarez rounding out your top 10. John Keefe will be starting from 11th, Laust Olsen in 12th. Don Peak will be P13, lucky number 13 for him, and Stefan Kelliger in the 14th position. What's the GTO field look like?
Velo Roller just managed to top out Jamie Hall in qualifying, only 6/100th of a second between the two in the first row. Joni Hagner, the number 1, starting in 3rd place. 4/10 separates him from Jamie Hall. Phil Lake, he is starting in 4th place. 31.233 was enough to clinch that over-turn grade, rounding out your top 5 in the GTO field. The 31.5, 19th overall that is, by the way. Nico Arvelomi, 20th overall. Reed Miller, 21st overall. Franco Scurry, Carlos Fonseca, Daniel Sadler, 32.8, quite deep into the midfield. Not used to seeing him that far back. Then we're already into the 33, so the Mio Di Pasca in 25th, Roberto De Filippis in 26th, Giorgio Buscemi 27th, Antonio Arcidiacono in 28th, Davide Solbiati 29th, Chiosu Leocata in 30th. That's a lot of GTOs this time around. Marco Corti 31st, Simo Rabat 32nd, Michael Hayes rounds out your top 33 and also the last car to set a qualifying lap. Pablo Rangel 34th, Giulio Forsolin 35th. Michael Balls will be lining up in actually 37th, that's the wrong way around for me, and Cristianas Graskia in 36th will be starting both on the last row.
Yeah, 37 cars join the session, but I'm not seeing Michael Valls here, so I'm not sure that he will actually take the grid. Still, 36 is a pretty hefty field here today, especially when dealing with the traffic. Heading into the section that you're seeing, they're starting just before as the Porsche pace car now takes off into all the technical portions. Now, in real life, we tend to see things get a little messy from time to time into the Senate S. What are you feeling about today, Steph? Is this going to be a problem with either of the classes?
The rolling starts make it a little bit easier into turn 1, but it's still going to be quite the hassle, let's be honest about that. So I don't expect major crashes, but a little bit of bump and runs, maybe some door banging into turn 1 and through turn 3, but I think the GTOs, they will have much more trouble with that because of the 4-wheel drive pushing them all the way to the outside, and if you're too wide through turn 3, that could create some problems because that runoff closes up very fast with that tire wall coming pretty much all the way to the track.
Something to watch out for sure. Now they come out of the junction and up the long stretch past the water tower, past the Subidos dos Boxes, and onto the start-finish line. So they'll be let go pretty soon, and it'll be Alexei Aloma coming over from what we usually see over in the Lotus 79s to join in a very similar car. A lot of ground effects, on this Nissan that makes it similar to that Lotus 79. The Porsche pace car now coming up to that pit entry past those Subidos dos Boxes. Peels in. Alexei has control of the field. Green flag is out. Not much of a wait, and he gets a great jump over Fabian Gerber, who's already under attack from Justin Albrecht, his championship rival. But Albrecht is not deeper on the brakes as we go 3 wide a little bit in the mid-pack, and there's already somebody turned around, and it's big junk in the midfield as everybody scatters, and already we got the Audis coming up.
Yeah, here come the Audis. Joni Hagner tried to do it into turn 1 to actually overtake Villarola. Not able to do so because of the yellow flag. Decided to stay a little bit more calm through them. Now gets attacked by Phil Lake. So he even lost second place. Nico Vilome also still fighting for his 5th, but he's going to lose that against
Oh, we got more wrecks. John Keefe, unfortunately, getting tangled up with some of the GTO cars. We'll get back to that in a bit. His car was already severely damaged, unfortunately. I can also tell you that in better news, that Justin Albrecht managed to get by Gerber for second. Not necessarily good for Gerber, but at least clean racing up at the front. And now he sets his sights on Alexei Aloma at the lead of the GTP class.
Still in the lead of the GTO class, it's Villerola, the flying thing, you could nearly say, who now slowly starts to get pressured by Jamie Hall. Yes, pretty much moved to his bump.
Expected Phil Lake to be the one with the heat up in second at this point, but instead Hall, his teammate there on Dirty Torque, has gotten by Hagner, and now we're going to see how much of a role this slipstream plays. A good gap has been pulled by our leader Raola, so he is certainly safe from that. Behind him, Hall being caught slightly by Hagner, but not a significant amount.
Yeah, Joni Hagner seems to be much stronger in the first few laps on the brakes, which he just showed there into turn 1 was quite a few car lengths back, but closed up right to the bumper of Jamie Hall.
And Albrecht has already caught Aloma. Somehow he was over a second back, and clearly the number 5 is quick today. Now I'm seeing him starting to drop a little bit through this latter half of the lap, and this has already got me thinking maybe there's two different philosophies on car setup going on here.
Oh, most definitely you can do that. Not only at GTP, but also in the GTO you can see two different philosophies of car setups. But obviously much more pronounced in the GTPs with the much more detailed wing on the car.
Coming down the front stretch, Albrecht not catching very quickly, which you would think if he has the lower downforce, he would start to gain significantly through this portion. It stays at about 0.6 of a second back. Meanwhile,
And
I think had to go at Hagner.
oh, Joni! Oh, that's a big one. Lucky to not get slinged back right into the field. But Joni Hagner, he tried to do the pass into Shunsao on Jamie Hall on the inside. He didn't get the drive he needed. Had to slow down way too much. Phil Lake then tried to do it around the inside of Subidos's boxes. And yeah, we pretty much saw the outcome there.
Yeah, that's an awful fast portion of the track. I guess I'm not sure if most people realize how marginal it is for these Audis to make it through that corner, Steph.
Oh yeah, if you're actually taking the racing line, you're pretty much touching with your right rear the grass already on the right side. So you really have to be careful what you do with your car placement, where you put your apex of Subidos's boxes, because if you don't get it right, you'll end up like Joni Hagner.
Speaking of Hagner, you can see he's not out of the woods yet as he's trying to overtake Buscemi. He is going to be able to get past one of our Italian GTO drivers, and that moves him back up into the top 10. Behind him, don't need a replay of it, but De Filipis and Arce Diacono swap positions as well. So we come back to Alexei Aloma. Justin Albrecht has now fallen back to a full second behind. So whatever happened that allowed him to close earlier, it looks like Aloma has responded.
Yeah, it does seem so because of the wreck also in GTO. We don't need to go there. Villerola now 1.6 seconds ahead of Jamie Hall and Phil Lake.
Number 2 in the Sim Cube car, continuing to try to make himself safe from Justin Albrecht, because they have yet to hit the traffic, and that could change everything out here. Weaving their way through the slower corners with that immense turbo lag, being ever so gentle on the throttle. And then he can really get on after here out of the junction onto the main straight. Once again, starting to pull away 1.2 seconds now ahead of Justin Albrecht. The Finn has got pace today.
Yeah, and another Finn who's got pace today is Joni Hagner, still quite surprisingly, who just has overtaken Daniel Sandler in ninth place.
Yeah, taking a look at the replay on that. I think this happened in the Descida del Lago. Yes, indeed. As they come down the Retta Oposta, he just ducks to the inside. Sadro knows better. He knows how fast Hagner is. He just lets him through.
Yeah, after that massive wreck with nosing it quite heavily twice into the barrier, he still pretty much has all the pace he needs, and if he keeps up with that, he might actually still be able to at least fight for a top, I would nearly say top 10 or even 6th place if everything goes right.
Yeah, he's already cracked into top 10. He's in 9th right now, so he's not sitting too badly, and he's got plenty of cars within reach. As long as his car isn't too damaged, he could manage to get overtakes done. Now let's take a look at what happened at the start. We know John Keefe was involved. I think there was a few others. But you can see the wreck had already happened in the GTPs, and now they're trying to collect themselves. John trying to return to the track and stay out of their way. Here's the initial incident. Turns, trying to figure out who that is. Someone on their lid, unfortunately. Katie Newworth, who's still getting repairs now.
Now, that was already quite an interesting wreck, but then... yeah. You know what? I would actually say that there's no fault to John Keefe. He was making his intentions clear on the outside, and then just... I don't know, Dipasca seems to not have realized that John Keefe was there and just ran out and tracked him.
Yeah, I noticed that too in the replay, so I think John is going to have to go and have himself a nice day to get away from the racing, because that was quite an unfortunate way to end things. As we come back to our leader in the GTOs, this is Rolla, who is ahead of Jamie Hall by about 2.5 seconds now. And it looks like John is actually, he hasn't stepped away completely yet. He's come to talk to us a little bit about what happened. I think we've got, as we might have a little bit of a battle on screen here. This looks to be between Trangrade and Phil Lake as they come down towards the Descida del Lago, but he's a little bit too far back. So now we have a chance to talk to John Keefe. John, we saw the replay just now of what happened. It looked like you just caught the bad end of the stick in a number of ways.
Yeah, the start, it's tricky here. I'm a big advocate for just, when we have a turn one like this, to just go as soon as you can, if you're the front row, because it just leads to things like this. Martin slowed up a lot, and I was riding the brake, and it looks like there was contact there. And then, of course, I got it going again, and then got tagged by an Audi, and then, you know, just a disappointing start. I took a week off just to kind of recoup and come back in kind of strong. So just a very disappointing way to start this.
Yeah, it was unfortunate to watch, but in a week's time, we're going to be coming back from Monza, and I mean, the first corner there usually doesn't offer much in the way of hope, but you guys are skipping that first corner, I believe, this time. Are you not, or is it a different layout?
I don't think it's the layout that uses no chicane, but I think the first one is the one that we'll be not using. I believe. I'd have to look.
All right. Well, you got some time to go practice, I suppose, for next week. Commiseration, and hopefully we'll talk to you in better circumstances.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks, Joe.
It was DNF today. John Keefe in the GTP class. We've been riding on board with Jamie Hall, looking back at Phil Lake and Ove Trangrade with their fight. Let's stick with this, but I also want to update fans of Joni Hagner. He's already gotten to 7th past Franco Scurry as well. He continues to make pretty rapid inroads on the field. Watching from the Norwegian's perspective now on the opposite end of this 3-car train just behind Phil Lake. Steph?
Well, speaking about the field, that's exactly what Alexi Loma does. He goes also through the field, meaning through the GTO field for the very first time. He's already up to 10th place, which is still held by Daniel Sapir.
Now he's starting to get into the thick of it. just behind Sadro, with Albrecht giving watch. Albrecht has made decent progress on that gap. He's down to 0.7 of a second, trying to make moves like this where he ducks to the inside, hoping that he can make up time. Doesn't really gain a lot, but he does manage to keep from losing it. And now they get onto the front stretch where they can really get their legs out.
Good awareness though by Daniel Sadler. He spotted that Albrecht is gonna go for it and discontinued his turn into Shinsao to prevent his car coming together with the Nissan of Albrecht.
They're going to want to get past this next big group. There's 4 all in a row just ahead of our leader.
It's going to be tight.
He's going to get 1. I don't even think he's going to get 2, though. And he's going to duck back into a line. And Loma trying to pick and choose the best way through as Albrecht follows. Now getting by the first of those GTO cars. Past Hagner now. Whoa, Albrecht sending it deep, but he runs out of room. But look at him start to gain time as Aloma is caught up, but he's boxed in now as Justin has to slow up. It comes and goes and not always in your favor. Still just nowhere to try and squeeze through. Finally finds an opening, but the time has hurt him greatly. He was down to a couple tenths and is back up to 1.3 seconds.
This has gone from good to bad to worse for Justin Albrecht, but still, he didn't lose too much time there on Alexi Loma, as he said. Right now, only 1.5 seconds behind him.
Back to those GTO cars. That is for position, don't forget, and that's one of our points leaders, Reed Miller, in there trying to hold off Hagner.
Oh,
and Miller way wide.
Had to step out of the throttle, has to let Joni Hagner by. Means Joni Hagner back into the top 5.
Now, worth noting, the GTP that just went by a little bit earlier, we had so much going on, I didn't get to mention it. If you could get a camera on Gerber closely, he made contact with one of the GTO cars. I'm not sure if he got damage from that, but I'd love to see if we can figure out if he hurt his aero in any way by that touch. It looked pretty decent, so maybe it was light enough that he got away this time.
Oh, and Aloma just got boxed in behind Jamie Hall and Phil Lake. Justin Albrecht got past them without any issues, so that brings down the gap to just half a second between your 2 leaders.
Meanwhile, on screen, Mukano's giving chase on Olenek as they go by Hagner and Miller now themselves, but in a much trickier position down through the second half of the course into the Ducksville. Mukanos manages to get clear finally and let them be. We're not done yet with the GTP traffic. This Tobias Gerber in 6th in that class. He's going to separate them momentarily.
Oh, and Jamie Hall just got bogged down by Fabian Gerber, which leads the gap to Phil Lake. Around the outside, he tries this into turn 1. Does he manage to do it through the center? Yes, he does it through the braking zone. No, he's going sideways.
Wow, manages to catch it, but look at how much that slows him up as Jamie Hall gets right back by, and all this back and forth is only bringing Trangerade in closer to make it a 3-car challenge to settle out the podium. Lake gets another run off the Curva del Sol. Defensive move on the Retta Pasta from Jamie Hall, holding him off, making him go the long way around, but he uses that 4-wheel drive to great effect as Phil Lake powering his way all the way off the course and finding the speed somehow just as they're caught by Rob Olenek, who himself has to go off course. It switches back in favor of Lake, who has the inside coming through the horseshoe. Now they get into the slower portion of the lap, and they're still not settled as they're continuing to be passed by GTP cars. Somehow, I think Jamie Hall finally has it as he gets by to the outside. This is Mukanos watching this whole thing from the popcorn position with a front row seat. He gets through, but that opens up the door once again for Phil Lake as Tobias Gerber tries to make it 3 wide. He suddenly goes back to 2 wide as it looks like Phil Lake squares off the corner, gets the better launch, and still for nearly an entire lap now, they've been battling back and forth, but it looks like Jamie Hall has the edge.
Here comes Trangerade. Look at that run from Ovid Trengrade, now side by side with Phil Lake, who tried to do it NASCAR style on Jamie Hall, didn't succeed. Now he has to defend from Trengrade, who goes into the grass, a little bit sideways, has to concede the position.
Wow, that was some hard racing, and this is all for second in the GTOs, and all of that, they didn't change spots. It is still Hall in second, Lake in third, and Trengrade fourth.
One thing I do want to mention though is how much time that did cost him. Jamie Hall, last lap at 34.8, Phil Lake 35.0, over Trengrade a little bit faster, 33.6, right behind them though, only in position. Joni Hagner, he's right now 5th place, but he did put in a 1:31.6, a full 2 seconds, 3 seconds even faster than Jamie Hall.
Hagner is loving that action. He actually is looking like he could contend for second place if this pace keeps up. You can see these three still close together, and if they stay this way out of the junction, you could get another battle erupting. Steph, how in the world do they manage to focus on their battle while not running into all that GTP traffic coming through?
Just Kamel GT things. Yeah, it's just Kamel GT things, as Nicholas Mukanis tries to do it on Rob Olenek into turn 1, doesn't succeed in doing so, has to stick behind, maybe able to get around out of turn 3. Let's have a look on that. Yeah, actually quite decent. They're out of turn 3, that might be something into turn 4. Let's see, has to do it around the outside. Does it try to brakes later, but once again has to give up on that fight.
I don't think he's going to give up for long. Meanwhile, the battle between Lake and Hall has erupted once more. These two teammates have fought plenty of times, so they are incredibly familiar with one another and door-to-door battle. But Jamie Hall chopped him off, coming through 5 and down into the horseshoe, keeping Lake behind at least for the moment.
Teammates, but not teammates, if I remember correctly. They're driving for different intern teams, still under the banner, obviously, of Dirty Talk.
They now have Klaus Olsen close behind. Surprise Trengrade hasn't been able to take advantage of all this, at least a little bit more often. Oh, in fact, he's going to slow up. And I don't know if he missed a shift or if he intentionally let Olsen through there. Let's do a quick replay on board, see if we can figure out if that was intentional or not.
Nah. Yeah. Let's go into replay, and yeah, it's showing that was a big misshift there by Over Trengrade.
Rocks full of neutral. It makes it hard to try and accelerate away, and that actually brings him very close to Hagner, who's now only a second and a half behind the Norwegian. They're dealing with their own GTO traffic. That's Michael Haynes trying to let everybody through there.
Joni Hagner, once again, a full second faster than both Jamie Hall and Philip Lake, fighting for that second place. So even after that big crash he had through Sabitos's boxes, he still has the chance in this race to get that second place. What an incredible feat that would be.
I'm kind of amazed because it looked like a hard hit into the wall that I would have thought it'd slow him up more. Apparently it wasn't as hard as it appeared on our screens. In 5th place though, Mukanos and Olenek still fighting with, let's not forget, Tobias Gerber starting to gain. He's been great through the traffic, has managed to catch up to the back of Mukanos now, but he's got about 0.7 of a second still to make up, so not within striking range quite yet.
Yeah, and you have to manufacture passes so much better in the GTP than in the GTO because the draft is just that much less effective in the GTP class than in the GTO class. Obviously, GTO, that is just a break in the wind, but this is quite a sleek design.
Carlos Fonseca just had an issue. I think this is a lone car incident, but not in a spot I'm used to seeing cars wreck. It was in the Ducksbill on the entry to it.
Yeah, but that happened actually out of the turn before, because he just powered through there. And you're gonna see he's gonna catch the grass. And yeah, that sends him sideways into the wall.
Hard hit. Great job by those behind avoiding him. Meanwhile, we got to come back live because Hagner's already run down Trangarade. This is for 4th spot in the GTOs, and he's looking around the outside of the horseshoe. Very difficult move to try and execute, but Hagner's up to the task. Not only up to it, but it looks like he might be successful. Still into turn 8. It's not done yet. Oh, it was so close to having it, but for now, Trangarade says no.
The one who made it, though, was Phil Lake ahead of him. He got past Jamie Hall round the outside, but Jamie Hall fighting back now. He's on the inside of the next turn. Also gets the inside for Shun Zhao. Doesn't need that inside, though.
On screen, we've still got the battle behind them. We need too many cameras here today because there's great action everywhere. Both the battles still going side by side. Hagner trying to get the launch up the hill to finally seal the deal here. Trangarade.
Sorry, Jamie Hall was nearly into the wall up ahead.
And they almost came together there too on screen between Trangarade and Hagner as they come to the braking zone for the Senna S. This time the inside for Yoni, and he's got it. Lake also managed to get past Hall successfully there. Sorry, Steph.
Yeah, that was because of the incident. Oh, Donald Peake takes the shortcut through the Senna S, nearly runs into Nico Aviloni because he didn't get his stop on the grass. But yeah, Phil Lake, after half a lap of battling, finally passed Jamie Hall. Same with Joni Hagner versus Ovi Trangarade.
Oh, this has just been frantic out here. Wouldn't expect anything less out of the Kamel series. As you can see, that battle for second place is not done. Rolla is loving this. He is well far ahead of both of them by 13 seconds. I think we have enough time to poke away because I want to give a little bit of light to Aloma and Albrecht. Now, they just spread apart by a couple more tenths, but they've been within half a second of one another for almost this entire race. And though they haven't changed positions, it's been hovering just around something that could explode at any moment. Through the traffic stuff, they've managed to stay very close on pace.
It just seems that Alexia and Justin are that much on pace with each other that one time one of them makes a little bit of a mistake, the other one gets a little bit of an edge. But I think that's just a little bit of give and take that these two have with their very similar racing.
Once again, closing in a little bit, chopping it down from those 0.8 of a second now to 0.3 of a second. Albrecht down the front stretch, looking mighty good, and a little bit wide on the first corner for Aloma, closes him in even more. This might be a chance to pass if he gets within the slipstream. He is reeling him in slightly. Justin Albrecht coming down the red outpost, so they are approaching GTO traffic. That could also affect this. Down through the Descida del Lago. Oh, and a big bobble from Aloma this time. Once again, bad off the corner. Albrecht going to have to look around the outside. Thinks about maybe crossing over. Nothing there for him for now.
Here comes the traffic, though. First, that is the red and white car of Reed Miller, one of our GTO leaders. Past them, him now. Nico Aviloni, the next one, orange and a black car of him. Also around the outside, perfectly makes space for our two leaders, doesn't interfere with their back leader.
Down into the junction. Can Albrecht get himself a good enough exit to challenge once more? And it looks like no. Aloma has responded now, keeping him at arm's length and not allowing him to have a go. Speaking of leaders, though, we haven't looked at Rolla in a while. Let's give the Finn a little bit of camera time. So he's going to be overtaken by Krejcik, who's managed to get back out and running. He was the one, it seems, who got turned over on that first lap.
Yeah, Villarola, after he lost the pressure of the 4 cars behind, he just went away and said goodbye to everyone else, right now leading by about 30, nearly 14 seconds over our second place battle between Phil Lake and Jamie Hall.
Yeah, that battle's actually still very, very close. There's only 3/10 between them. We're going to watch from Lake's perspective. Excuse me, from Hall's perspective, looking at Lake. They've got Don Peak in the GTP Nissan waiting patiently. He doesn't want to interrupt this. He's been sitting behind this for a few corners now, looking for a better opportunity.
One guy they really do have to worry about, though, is the car behind Donald Peak. That is Joni Hagner. Once again, a flying fin behind the wheel of an Audi GTO. Only now 2.1 seconds behind the two Dirty Talk racers.
And Peak's going to be able to get through one, maybe two, but they're going to go 3 wide. Oh, and he's not aware that they're there. They both come together, all three of them off course. Hall gets the worst of it as he finally collects it. Lake now moves up into second.
And here now is Joni Hagner. That, by the way, is also our GTP leader battle going past them. So Alexia Lomer got a little bit slowed down there, but so did Justin Albrecht. Here now comes Fabian Gerber past them. Joni Hagner tries to do it on Jamie Hall on the inside.
I was just going to say, Hagner gets into the mix as well, almost bangs doors with Jamie Hall, and I think he's going to be able to get the spot. Covers him off last second. Oh, back to the line. Almost makes contact with Jamie. They all managed to get woed up in time for the horseshoe. Oh, my goodness. You can see the contact with the outside wall from Jamie Hall is very apparent on the right-hand side of his car. Well, now things have finally settled out to just these three fighting for second in the GTO class, with most of the GTPs getting through. Now, wait a minute. When did Gerber catch up to Albrecht and Oloma here?
That was because of the wreck we had in the GTO second place. And Jamie Hall is super slow out of Speederstar's boxes because he hit the outside wall yet again.
Oh, and that's the side that was already damaged. Wonder if he had some suspension damage. The car just wasn't turning right.
Yeah, and he actually also stopped on track to take a turn.
Obviously a little bit too much for him to continue. That is a shame. He was looking at a potential podium today, and it's all slipped through his fingers there. You can see him eventually deciding to take it back to the pit lane.
And also, Joe, while that was happening, Joni Hagner got past Phil Lake into and through turn 1 because of a mistake by Phil Lake.
Well, we said second was on the cards for Hagner. I think we got the replay of that pass. Let's take a look here. Coming out of Descida del Lago.
Yeah, it was through turn 1, so we have to go back a bit there, as he's already in front of Phil Lake.
This is... Oh, there you go. Actually, I think this was already too far back. This looks like the lap prior, because that's Hall involved in there. So we'll come back live. In the meantime, Gerber lost that time that he had gained, about 1.8 seconds behind Albrecht.
Oh, Phil Lake! Woohoo! Super slideways on the brakes. On the inside of Joni Hagner, gets it slowed down just in time to not hit the fin and has to stay behind. But Phil Lake looking very racy for that second place.
And he's got a great run here. In fact, he's pulling a big toe, but he runs out of straightaway. He's going to tuck in behind Joni Hagner. They both have to be aware there's no hope of catching Rolla. I have a feeling that his gloves off and down to these two for the final 10 minutes of this race, which, speaking of which, has gone by incredibly quickly.
Welcome to Kamel GT, folks. 40 minutes feel like just 10.
They've got traffic as well. That's Christian Sgracia. He's going to let them through. Nice move there by the Italian. Speaking of the Italians and their Milk Zoo Championship, looking at the battle for 11th in that class, that's De Filippi's, who goes a little bit wide out of the Descida del Lago. Buscemi, both of them weaving to try and find position as they break now for the horseshoe. He wasn't close enough. They're going to get an interruption in the form of Kelliger just behind them, as well as Olsen. And that's going to split them up by a much wider margin, although it looks like De Filippi's gets pushed to the outside. Olsen trying to work his way through. Now, with the GTPs gone, that gap has grown to about 0.8 of a second.
That was the battle for P8 in the GTPs. So that battle will split up a bit.
In that same class, Antonio Arcidiacono, another one of our Italians, chasing Leo Cotta, another Italian. So this is also for that Milk Zoo Championship, and Giosu unfortunately goes a little bit wide. There's a look to the inside, but there's a car there now. Arcidiacono can't use his gain speed in that corner. Oh, so nearly shoves Kelliger off.
Yeah, that was a little bit late by Kelliger there. So like Leo Cotta was already committed to the outside in the GTOs. You just have no hope of trying to slow down and not push to the outside if you're committed for the forward racing.
I thought for sure that Stefan was going to get turned there. Somehow managed to keep the car pointed forward. And Leo Cotta still fighting with Arcidiacono to try and settle out that 9th spot.
Fighting for 9th, but fighting as if it was first place. Stefan Kelliger just nearly had a spin out of the next turn. Laust Olsen goes past for 8th place in the GTP class.
Olsen making good use of that. Let's take another look at that overtake.
Yeah, as said, Stefan just a little bit too wide through the turn, gets his rear tires on the grass, has to really brake. Laust Olsen able to avoid him and go past on the left side.
That almost could have turned into a 2-car wreck there if Olsen hadn't gotten on the binders. Now, unfortunately, and it is a 2-car wreck. Commentator's curse strikes again. And Kelliger, unfortunately, getting the reverse of what we were just talking about.
I have to say, though, that was one of the best commentator's curse on the field.
It's the most accurate commentator's curse I think I've ever made. So Olsen stays in 8th and Kelliger down in P9. We're getting into the final 6 minutes of this lap. As we take a look at our leader in the GTOs. This is Ruola, a whopping 17 seconds ahead of Hagner. His fellow Finn is probably ruining that opening few laps because it seems like the pace that Hagner's had, he maybe could have challenged Ruola for the win today.
Yeah, right now he even is faster than Villerola. Last lap was a full 10th faster than your first place Finn, but still, two teammates actually in first and second.
How do you manage to be faster after thwapping into the wall? My goodness, I cannot believe Hagner sometimes.
It's a Finn. There's not a question you ask.
Something about getting damage just makes them go all the quicker, I suppose. Meanwhile, we've been watching Aloma as well. Another Finn. It is Finn domination today here in the Kamel GT series. Although I guess you couldn't really call it domination for Aloma. He's gapped out the biggest gap he's had all race, which is about 1.7 seconds. That's not much in Kamel terms. And they've still got Gerber back there as well. So 3 seconds separating our top 3.
Yeah, then it's a whopping, 18 seconds back to Rob Olenek, who is in total 21 seconds behind Alexei Aloma, 18 seconds behind the before mentioned Fabian Gerber, who still sits in 3rd place.
Yeah, that's Aloma overtaking Kelliger. So, RCD Akono having issues or getting past here? Leo Cotta with him. He's been trying to pass Leo Cotta for a while. We watched this a little bit earlier. This is now still for 9th spot. Through the little orange. And then up to the Duck's Bill one more time. If he can stay this close, he's going to get a nice toe up the front stretch here, Steph.
Yeah, and they have to be careful because Roberto De Filippis and Sergio Buscemi just not too far behind them. So if they fight too much, those two will join that fight for 9th place.
Heading up that front stretch, and looks like he fell a little bit too far behind out of the junction, unfortunately. So RC Diacono gonna have to try again later. Had a number of DNFs here today.
Oh, he's going wide though. Leo Cotta opens up the door for RC Diacono. He says, thank you very much. I'm going past.
Sometimes you got to take what's given to you, and that one was definitely given to RC Diacono. With him, P9. Meanwhile, battles happening behind them.
Mocano is going all the way to the outside to get past Buscemi, but that really did open up the gap between him and Roberto De Filippis.
And actually, that closes up with Olenek, who himself has to go off course just to try and get around some of these GTO cars.
Oh, and again!
And once again, wow, and that's going to slow him up a lot. Mukano sees it, looks for the inside, coming down into turn 8. Can he finally seal the deal? It's not done yet. Olenek, switching back to the left side, manages to hold him back. Woo. Still, he's now got a mirror full of that number 10 machine. Let's see just how quickly things can change. 3 laps to go. And Albrecht, Gerber's caught Albrecht, and championship implications here. If Gerber can manage to get by, again, it is a tight race. Wow, late on the lap traffic of Suarez, but he had to make it stick. Albrecht now going by the GTO cars as well. This is Arvelomi just ahead of him.
Great heads-up driving there by by Martin Krejcik, who saw that Albrecht is coming and stayed out of the way of him.
This is not what Albrecht wanted late in the race. He had a good gap to Gerber earlier on, but something with Fabian has come together, has clicked. At the end of this race, he's found pace, he's caught the American, and now he's trying to overtake him so he can finally close that points gap. These two were the only two on the lead lap last round, but certainly not going to be the case this time with Aloma outpacing them. Speaking of which, white flag is out. Oh, deep on the brakes, nearly getting into the gearbox of Albrecht. Gerber, and he spins his wheels. That could put the kibosh on that battle. So Fabian Gerber falls back to 1.2 seconds, and that is a sigh of relief from the number 5.
I was still watching the Italian battle between Leo Cotta and Filippis, and sadly don't peak the second a little bit too fast into Shunsao. Hits Leo Cotta, and Filippis goes around as well.
Almost looks like Leo Cotta maybe chopped off peak there. I know I'm partial, but we'll get a better look at it later and see if we can dissect that one. Really up at the top, we've got Aloma leading the way now by 2.5 seconds over Albrecht with that battling that we were witnessing earlier. And as he comes out of, was it effectively the final corner, out of the junction and up the hill, Alexi Aloma comes storming into the Camel Series to take victory here today at Interlagos. Albrecht going to come across the line once again, pulling a gap over Gerber in the points, finishing ahead of him. Let's go to Rolla, though. our leader down in the GTOs. Once again, didn't get a whole lot of screen time. 17.5 seconds ahead of Hagner. And based on the slip up that we saw from Hagner, that was Don Peak actually just spinning there, letting our leader in the GTOs go. I suspect that if it wasn't for that incident early on, Hagner definitely would have been within range. Sounds like we got a battle going on between Leo Cotta and De Pasqua. This is down to the line. Woo! As Leo Cotta has to take evasive action and is not going to beat him to the line as they come together. Almost not sure if that wasn't friendly, but Willy Roland now just behind them, going to take victory into the GTO class. Watch what happened there with De Pasqua. Excuse me, that was that was De Pasqua.
Yeah, that between De Pasqua and Leo Cotta actually happened through Shenzhou, where Leo Cotta missed his braking point by quite a bit. De Pasqua got past, and then a drag race to the start-finish line, which De Pasqua wins, who I would say jumps on the brake a little bit afterwards, and Leo Cotta didn't realize that fast enough, and yeah, they accidentally came together.
And I think that should be it for our finishers today. So we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, but stick around because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Said that today could shape things in the championship here at Interlagos, and I'd say it certainly did. But a different face coming in to take victory here up at the top of the GTP class, and it's Alexi Alomo winning it, though he was challenged by Justin Albrecht for most of the race. Albrecht unfortunately didn't get the traffic how he wanted at the end of it, and instead was playing a rear guard. He still took second, but barely ahead of Fabian Gerber, who was challenging, hoping to get more points than him, and it was not to be. So it'll have to go to the second half of the season for him to take the points lead. Rob Olenek with a nice fourth. He himself was in a fight with the car who finished behind him, Nick Mukanos. That was some great stuff there. Tobias Gerber didn't have the pace of his brother and settled for sixth place. Heitor Sintez Guindo, I don't think he had a quiet race because it's impossible to have a quiet race in Camel Series, but still we didn't really see him much, and he took seventh. He was the last car on the lead lap, because then you've got Laust Olsen finishing in eighth. Stefan Kelliger took P9, and then the top 10. Unfortunately, Don Peak affecting our battle in the GTO class, and then had a little bit of problems with some other GTO cars at the very end, settles for 10th place. And Pablo Suarez rounds out 11th in the last of our GTPs who were among the top group.
Villerola led the whole race to finish first place in the very end. 12th place overall, by the way. Joni Hagner, second place, goes to him after a big wreck in the early stages of this race through Subidos boxes. Phil Lake settles for third place over Trangerate with a very wide fourth place finish ahead of Nikar Vilomi in fifth, Reed Miller sixth, Bragascari seventh, Daniel Sadler eighth, Antonio Arcidiacono, the first of our Italian drivers, in ninth, Remio Di Pasca in 10th place. Giuseppe Lecata only misses out on the top then by just a bit. Giorgio Buscemi 24th overall, Roberto De Filippis 25th, Davide Solbati 26th, Michael Hayes 27th, who is also the very last car to finish the race. Jamie Hall leads the list for people who have wrecked out in this race with a very, very unfortunate wreck. Two wrecks actually in one lap. Carlos Fonseca, Christian Sgraskia, Marco Conti, Simo Raba, Giulio Forcelin, John Keefe, and Fabian Jungbuth all join him on the DNF list alongside Pablo Rangel and Michael Holtz.
We've got our winner in the GTPs ready to talk to us, Alexi Aloma. Clearly having to deal with a little bit of pressure as he weaved through the traffic. Alexi, Justin was keeping you honest that race, I'd say.
Yeah, it was like I had to focus every lap, every corner. So yeah, and traffic sometimes gave him a chance to actually try to pass. So yeah, it was a tough race.
How did you go about setting up your car for this one? Because there's sort of two faces to this track. There's the second portion, which is very twisty, and then you've got the long straights coming up to the start-finish line as well, down to the fourth corner. I mean, which way do you try and slant it to find the speed here?
I pretty much just checked someone else's top speed and kind of try to match that. So yeah, I didn't really play it with any setup. Pretty much just kind of try to match everyone else.
Interesting idea to try and pay attention to that and adjust based on what you're seeing there. Well, obviously we've got Monza next, which is going to be mostly top speed. Will you be coming back to the Camel Series to see if you can throw a wrench in the system for Albrecht and Gerber again?
I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
But I would like to.
Well, we'd like to have you back. That was some exciting stuff out there. Congratulations on the victory today.
Thank you.
It's Alexi Aloma, winner in the GTP class. And I believe we've got second place in the GTOs ready to talk to Stefan.
Yeah, Joni, now very interesting catch-up for you, I would say. First, a very hard hit to the outside wall of Subidos boxes. Talk us through that event.
Well, there was not enough room for two cars, and Audi is quite a knife edge on that corner to get a flat out. So I think it was Phil. He was just a bit wide there, and we touched it. And yeah, just scraped at the wall a bit and got some damage and make my rest of the race quite interesting.
Made it quite interesting for sure, Joni. Now, you started your catch-up in, if I remember correctly, 13th place in the GTOs. And to finish in second place, did you think that was possible at that time?
Yeah, after a couple laps, I was watching the timing on my screen. So I think I would have just the same pace with the Ville without the damage with what I got on the wall.
So, reading off that, you're confident that you would have had something for Ville without the damage?
Yeah. I got a bit broken car and he was like 1/10 of faster than me. So, yeah, yes.
Well, next up, Monza, the Grand Prix circuit, actually, the full Grand Prix circuit with both chicanes added. I just had a look at it. How do you feel about that one?
Uh, not not really interested because yeah, Audi's got a lot of drafts and it's really hard to make caps there and racing in Monza is always a bit risky because yeah, it's Monza.
Well, reading off that you won't be there.
I might be there. I don't say no, but yeah.
Well, Yoni, looking forward to seeing you there, so I want you to see there. But yeah, Yoni, congrats once again on your second place, and thanks for talking to us.
Yeah. Have a nice day.
That was Yoni Hagen, your second place finisher in the GTOs. Next up, Fabian Gober with Show Peak.
It wasn't a yes and it wasn't a no, but it was sort of similarly hard to read for Fabian Gerber today because Fabian, you got passed early by Justin despite putting it on the front row, and then suddenly you managed to catch up to him. Was your car just not good at the start of the race?
No, it was honestly probably the most frustrating race for me ever because I had so much bad luck in traffic. I couldn't believe it. I actually could keep up all race long, but I just was taking it a bit easier at the beginning to look after my tires. And by the end, I guess I just had more grip. Justin was sliding around quite a bit, so with a couple of more laps, I think I could have gotten him. But again, when I was close to him, the traffic always came between us, so it was really, really tough for me today.
Does that hindsight make you wish you had pushed a little bit harder? Or do you think you would have been in the same position as Justin and burned off the tires if you pushed early?
No, the only thing I regret is that I didn't defend at the beginning because I thought he wouldn't be able to overtake on the shorter straight, but he had a very good exit, I guess, and I saw all race long that he had a bit more top speed. So if I had known that, I should have defended, and then I could have had a chance to go after Alexi, but that wasn't to be today.
Speaking of Alexi, he certainly seems to be pretty good comparatively to you and Justin, at least at this track. If he continues to show up, do you think you can try and match him, or do you think he's looking like he might be sort of a complication in your championship battle?
For sure, he's going to be a complication because if he takes points away, I have less chance. But it doesn't really matter where he ends up if I'm behind Justin. So I need to be in front of Justin. That is more important than where Alexi actually is. But he was just 1/10 faster in qualifying, and in the race we were all about the same. So I'm not too worried yet. But I guess when he's getting more used to the car, he's going to be even faster.
Certainly seems like it. Well, again, congratulations on a podium today, even though it wasn't ahead of Justin. Hopefully we'll go to talk to you next week.
We will. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Confidence from Fabian Gerber. Finally, we have third place in the GTOs. Steph is caught up with Phil Lake.
And Phil, quite an interesting battle with your teammate there, which for a very long time looked like it's going to be a fight for second place, but having to settle for third place behind Joni Hagner, who came from 12th place. That must have been quite a surprise.
Yeah. I've just apologised to Joni after I sort of put him in the wall there on lap 4. And I thought he was out of the race, to be honest, because I looked in my mirror and he was like twirling around and I thought, I've just taken Joni out. And then when I saw him on the relative again, I was quite surprised. And he was catching us up. So I was like, okay, it's not over yet. I had a real fun battle with Jamie. It was a shame it ended the way it did. And when Joni caught me, I didn't have any tyres left at that point, and I was just overdriving the car massively.
If Don doesn't give you an apology, I can give him a talking to if you need. Just saying, Phil.
It was a tricky situation, I think. No one wants something to happen like that, and we're all trying to give each other as much space as we could, and it's just one of those things.
Yeah, but you still showed a very great fight. First, obviously, with your teammate of Jamie Hall, and then also you still tried to fight back a little bit of Joni Hagner, even with your short tires. going into the next round, which is going to be at Monza, what can you take from this round and say that is going to help me for the next round, even if it's just saving your tires a little bit while trying to fight?
Yeah, Monza's a bit of a different kind of race anyway, because you can kind of sit behind somebody and wait for most of the race as long as you're in a decent position. I think the biggest mistake I made this week was thinking that high downforce was a good idea, and I I don't think it was. So next week there's no debate about that. Definitely low downforce for Monza, so that should help.
Well, Phil, fingers crossed for a better outing at Monza then.
Yeah, let's hope so. Thanks, guys.
That was your third place finisher, Phil, in and around the lake in the GTO class. And Joe, I'm sad, but we have to end this very great broadcast.
Yeah, the exciting times are over, at least for Kamel, but we'll have more broadcasts later today with Bootleg coming up. We'll get to that in a second, but we want to thank the Kamel Series for bringing us back for another season of coverage here on the Global Sim Racing channel. And a big thank you goes to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. You can see listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to Jumalon, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Steph, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Check us out on social media as well. Our Twitter is @GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. The next race, we've mentioned it, they're going over to Monza. That'll be Saturday, October 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern. But we also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen. So check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, however, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.